A shock WWE name is cleared to wrestle, apparently. We'll get to that in a moment. Plus, we had a debut, a return, and a heel turn on AEW Dynamite. And a legendary tag team has announced their retirement tour. It is all in the wrestling news right now. Here's a name we never thought we'd talk about getting back into the wrestling ring again, Corey Graves. So this comes from Fightful Select, who say, we've spoken to sources in WWE and those close to the situation, and they claim that Corey Graves was actually cleared by doctors in WWE at some point in 2021. Corey Graves, of course, briefly won the 24/7 championship that year, despite previously being on a strict internal no-contact list that the company keeps. Fightful have heard from one person near Creative who, whilst they weren't made aware that there were plans for a comeback for Corey Graves, he is no longer on that no-contact list. Several pitches internally have gone in for Corey Graves as well. None have made it through just yet. But Adam, how do we feel about Corey Graves getting back in the wrestling ring?
I mean, you've got to be happy for the guy, haven't you? I'm not especially familiar with Corey Graves / Sterling James Keenan's previous work. I've seen a few matches here and there. I know he was pretty damn decent in the ring. But any time that something like this happens and somebody is able to do the thing that they love, that's very heartwarming. That's lovely. And he's expressed fairly recently in a couple of interviews, a few podcasts, that the desire is still very much there and he still misses it. So I personally think he's probably more valuable to WWE as a broadcaster. I think he's really, really good at his job. But if the right scenario, the right feud were to appear, then I'd be well up for seeing him get back in the ring. And the fact that they've made several pitches, according to this report, and none have got through, means they're probably being quite careful with this and they want to do something meaningful. And I think that's quite reassuring as well. That's quite promising.
There's a great video on NXT's YouTube channel, which is Corey Graves, sort of like the road to him announcing his retirement, and you can tell how much it means to him, to be wrestling for WWE, and how heartbreaking it was to have to step away. But then, as you say, he transitioned beautifully into a role that I think WWE would be lost without him doing. Like, I think he's really grown into that role as color commentator on Monday Night Raw now once again. We'll keep an eye on what hopefully won't be a grave mistake for Corey moving into wrestling action in WWE. Let's move over to AEW, where we had a debut that I know you and I, Adam, have been excited to see happen proper on Dynamite EE last night.
For sure. I mean, this is really big news. It was a very, very eventful AEW Dynamite last night, and a former Ring of Honor star popping up. This is a man who, I think when the Ring of Honor releases happened, he was on everybody's lips. He was like the guy that everybody wanted to see in AEW. He's finally there. Brodie King debuting on last night's show, aligning with his PWG tag team partner, Malachi Black, which is awesome as far as I'm concerned, because the guy has heaps and heaps of talent. And not just that, I'm glad that he's aligned himself with Black, because as that stable starts to grow, it just makes Malachi Black, and I know people get upset because there are lots and lots of stables in AEW, but this is one that I quite like, and maybe it won't grow too much. Anyway, it makes Malachi Black a bigger deal because he's the leader of that as a result of this, and also he's just such a natural fit for that group, isn't he? He's like, he just fits in. He looks the part. He's just a big, terrifying man, and I couldn't be happier for him. I know people often complain that AEW are signing up lots and lots and lots of talent, and their roster is either bloated or at risk of becoming bloated. But when there's a talent like that, you can't really blame them for not passing him up, right?
No, and it gives Malachi Black a different string to his bow. And I'm glad you mentioned, actually, because it slipped my mind to the fact that Kings of the Black Throne are still PWG tag champions. I kind of hope they might even bring, in a world of forbidden doors kicking open and closed, Do we see the tag belts brought out at some point? That'd be a nice thought. But either way, it's nice to see them both representing on AEW Dynamite. Also, last night on Dynamite, we saw the return of Lance Archer. We haven't seen him since he was dropped on his own heat mid-moonsault during the Eliminator tournament. Gosh, it looked nasty.
Scary.
We thought that was it. We thought, well, thanks, that's the end of the run for Lance Archer. But he amazingly, that man must have a neck made of concrete, because he's fine and he's back. He made a return last night. We hoped he battered Dan Lambert in that bit with Hangman Page. Ended up battering Hangman Page. We see a wonderful, a really powerful moment where he drops Hangman Page through the steel chair. With the blackout. Oh, gosh.
That was something I wouldn't like to be on the receiving end of that one. So a nice big heel turn there, and immediately you've got to think that he's going to be inserted into the AEW World Title picture, which is a hell of a way to return. Something that he well and truly, in my opinion, deserves. I don't see him capturing that belt or anything. And time with... I'm a really, really big Archer fan. I think he's had like heaps of potential for ages, and he's somebody throughout his career that's just got better and better and better. Like, I remember watching him as Vance Archer in WWE, in what feels like 50 years ago. But he went away and he just sort of... He reinvented himself, and he looked so badass last night. Time isn't on his side because he's 44 years old at this point. He's older than you might think he is. So I don't know how many opportunities he's going to get in the world title picture, but I think it's going to be a very impressive showing for him regardless.
I too am a big Archer fan. My favourite character is Krieger. Full AEW Dynamite. Thanks, mate. Full AEW Dynamite results at cultaholic.com. When we move on now to our final story today, which is where we say goodbye to a legendary tag team. And they're a tag team that have, to pardon the pun, rocked and rolled for a long time now. Ricky Morton putting on Twitter, Rock and Roll Express Farewell Tour begins January 22nd, 2022. I want to focus more with Kerry, his son, Kerry Morton, and behind the scenes in the wrestling business. To specify, Robert and I are retiring from tag team wrestling together. Not appearances or signings. I'd like to continue to tag team with my son as well and work with the younger generation in this glorious business. But it is the last dance for the Rock and Roll Express, Adam.
I mean, I don't want to say it's about time, because they've proven in recent matches that they can still absolutely go, especially Morton. But good for them. Like, what a career. That's awesome. I don't know how long this farewell tour is going to last. It wouldn't surprise me if it went until about 2029 or something. But yeah, it's really cool, and it doesn't surprise me. It sounds to me, with Ricky Morton saying that he wants to continue doing the tag team thing, and he's going to keep wrestling with his son, which is lovely as well. I love stuff like that. That maybe this is Gibson's idea. Maybe it's time for him to hang up the boots.
I like the idea of the retirement tour, like you say, never ending. We can't retire if the retirement tour doesn't end. Doing an Elton John Farewell Yellow Brick Road that's been going for 30 years now.
Are there any final Rock and Roll Express matches that you would love to see before they do call it a day, Tom?
Rock and Roll Express Briscoes. Do that.
Nice.
I mean, do you know what? They had a really fun match against the Bollywood Boys recently, when the Bollywood Boys got back together on the Indies. They had a match against Rock and Roll Express. That was really good fun. But I'd love to see them. I'd like to see them mix up a little bit in GCW. Like, I know the Briscoes seems like a hilarious mismatch, but I'd love that. We know that Matt Cardona's facing Ricky Morton in GCW at the moment, so that's nice. Briscoes, I think ODK, I think Taven and Canellis, I think are great fun. See them work together some more. That'd be good. How about yourself, sir?
Just Deuce and Domino, and I think then call it a day. That'll do me.
That's how every tag team should end.
They've done it all, haven't they? There's not much more that I want to see from them, but yeah, hell of a run. Like, one of the greatest tag teams ever.
More news throughout the day at cultaholic.com, and a wonderful chat that I had with AEW Dark standout Kid Bandit on the podcast feed right now. It's a brand new episode of Desert Island Graps. It's ready for your ears wherever you get your podcasts from. Till we speak again, stay safe. Love you, bye.